Agent Stacey Galbraith interviewed Robert Merry by phone on the 23rd of August 2018. CBI was requested to assist Frederick PD in a missing persons case homicide. Robert Merry was identified as an Anadarko employee who worked with and knew Chris Watts. Agent Stacey Galbraith interviewed Robert Merry by phone on the 23rd of August 2018 at 10:53 a.m. Robert met Chris Watts roughly 2 years ago through work at Anadarko. Chris was Robert's team's rover. Chris also did computer work in the office in the absence of IOC staff that worked on computers. Robert does not know what IOC stands for. They look at computers to determine things about well production. Chris would look at the computer and then have someone go check out a well, if perhaps the production was down. Chris worked mostly in the field. He was always a rover and worked as an extra hand to employees, such as Robert, who had an assigned route. As a rover, Chris was not dedicated to a certain route. He would talk with the work group to see what help was needed where and then work there. Chris was a field operator and would cover routes as relief to those that were off work or could not cover their own routes. Robert considered Chris a friend at work. They did not socialize outside of work. Sports was a big thing to Chris and he is a Carolina Panther fan. Robert would talk about football with Chris. Chris did not really talk about anything personal at work. If Chris was gone from work, Robert and others would know that his kids were having a health issue, but that was really all Robert knew of Chris's family. Robert last saw Chris at work on the 10th of August 2018. Chris acted as he usually does. Robert has since watched interviews Chris gave to the media prior to his arrest, and Robert felt that the Chris on the interviews was the Chris he knew at work. His demeanor and body movements were as Chris was the way Robert knew Chris. He demonstrated nothing out of the ordinary to Robert. Robert saw Chris every day at work in the mornings. The employees with assigned routes would then leave the office and go work on their routes. Chris would get a task assigned or go back to work on something he was already working on. Robert saw no indications that Chris had any family problems. He never met Shanann or their children. Robert once talked to Shanann by phone for her to give him her spiel about Thrive. Robert has seen stories about how Chris had a happy family, and Robert would have guessed that Chris lived a normal, happy family life. I asked about Chris's ability to complete tasks and work. There were no indications that Chris was not of sound mind at work. Chris was very thorough and checked boxes to make sure he had what he needed to get a job done. Chris was a mechanic prior to working for Anadarko. Robert said that Chris did his job very well. Robert stated that is trying to remember Chris as the guy that he worked with after this case. He was hesitant to provide his mailing address as he fears being bombarded with contact efforts to gain information. I assured him that his address would be in the law enforcement official report, which would be provided to Frederick PD and the DA's office, but not released to the media by CBI. I told him that in the event he would be needed as a witness to testify, he would be contacted in the future. He did provide his address. I thanked Robert for his time.